So in this video, we are going to see another version of modify entity statement in ABAP EML. This is also called a dynamic version of modify statement in ABAP EML. And what makes is dynamic is, for example, if in our normal ABAP language, if we want to pass certain where condition in the select clause, and those where conditions are created dynamically. So what we do is we create a dynamic where condition, and then the collection of all of those fields we pass to the select query at once, right? So similar kind of stuff is we are going to see in this modify entities, and this dynamic modify entities operation is identified with operations keyword. So this is a new keyword here which will be available in our statement. Now let's see at high level what exactly this statement is, and what are all different parts available in this. So modify entities operations, this is the full statement, or you can say this is what we are going to see. The dynamic version of modify entity statement executes multiple modify operations. So you can do insert, you can do delete, you can do update operations, you can do create by association. All of those modify operations which we have seen in our previous videos, you can perform all of those operations with a single modify statement. And this is what the use of modify entities operations in a dynamic form. Now there are some of the things which we need to keep in mind before using this statement. So there are predefined types and predefined components which we need to pass to prepare the data for multiple modify operations, whether it is for insert, delete, update, or create by association. So very first thing is there is a specific table type which we need to create. For example, this is the table name. This can be anything, but it should be type of ABP behavior changes table. So what this table will contain is, this table will contain all of your details about your operation, your entity, and your data on which or using which you want to perform the operation. So this is one important thing. And now when you write the modify statement, or when you create this table contains certain components available, which are, some are mandatory, some are optional component. So very first component is OP, which stands for operation, and it's a mandatory component, and this component will specify what kind of operations you are doing, or what kind of operation you are doing on a specific entity. Now the second component is entity name. This will specify your root entity name on which you want to perform the operation. And one thing which we need to keep in mind is, this entity name must be provided in the capital letters. If you provide it in camel casing or small letters, this will not work. Now the third important component is instance. Now this is also a mandatory component, and this specifies the internal table. So for example, if you want to create a record using modify entities operation, you can have multiple records inserted at once. So all of those records should be updated first in an internal table which is of type your root entity. If you want to delete anything, then also you need an internal table which will have your primary key updated. If you want to update anything or update any record, you still need to have an internal table which will have your field and the new value. Okay, so these are mainly three. There are more, but these are the minimum three components which are required in order to work with modify entities operations. So this was the high level details or information about this dynamic modify entities operation. Now let's see how we can implement this technically. So very first thing which we already know, we need different internal tables which will have our data on which we want to perform the operations. For example, one internal table for create, one for delete, and one for update. So let's start creating those things quickly. And student create, and type would be type table for create, and our root entity name. So our root entity name is this one. Okay, now our next table will be for update and delete. So let's copy and create, change it to update, then for update, this is for update, and this is for delete. Okay, one more table which we need here is which will combine all of these three tables together, and that will go into the modify statement. So the table is let's give it a name operation table, and the type would be a specific type which will be ABP underscore BEH behavior and changes. Okay, so these are the four main type or internal tables which we need. Now let's start by creating these or by filling these tables with the data. Now here we have already seen create student, and I'm using the same record or the same table basically. So let's copy and paste and remove the comment here, change the name. So now this is done. Our record will be created with this name. Our table is this. Okay, so in this table we will be creating a record. Now the name would be, first name would be this. Okay, we need to have %CID, which is a best practice. We should always pass this student head. Now first name, last name will be YT, age, and course duration is 1, and I'm passing status as blank here. Rest all of these things would be same. So our create table is created, now done. Now let's move on to update table. So value hash, and we need to pass the details to update this table. So for that we will be passing CID reference, and the reference value will be this one. Why? Because we want to update the same created record on the next line. We are giving a reference to this record, and what we are going to update here is we will be updating the status field. Okay, so we are creating a status field with blank value, but we will be updating it here again. Now which field you want to update? You want to update the status field with value X, and we also need to pass a control parameter here. So control and status is equal to interface ABAP behavior and on. So I want to update this field. Now our update table is also done. Now the third thing is delete. Let's create it quickly. So our delete will be, we again need to pass a key field here. So our key field is %tky, and what is ID field is our key field. Now which record you want to delete? Let's take this record here. So copy and paste. Now our all of these three tables are created. Now let's add all of these three tables to our operation table, which will finally be going into modify statement. So how this is done is value hash and 1, 2 and 3 for three different tables, and put a dot here. Now let's start. So there are specific components which we have seen in our second slide, which we need to pass. Now let's start putting those components here. Okay, let's take it. Now the first component is op, which is operation for modify. And which operation you want to perform here? We want to perform operation M and create. So we want to perform the create operation. On which entity you want to perform? So entity name will be our root entity name, this one. But we need to keep in mind, we need to pass it in a capital letter. So zi underscore rep student underscore 5001. Now delete. Now the third thing is instance. Now this instance will have the internal table where you have your data created for the operation. So for create, we have this internal table here. So first is done. Okay. Now let's put the entry into second and third one. Let's copy this, paste. Now the operation is update and pass the update table. Paste. Now the third one is for delete. see, delete, copy and paste. So now our operation table is also ready. Now what we are going to do in the last step is we will write a modify statement and we will pass this operation table into that modify statement. Now let's write the modify entities operations and which table we have with the data, this one, and normal, let's create the variables here. So lt failed type would be your so type would be underscore response underscore table, and lt underscore reported type would be same, and then the last one is lt underscore mapped. Now let's pass lt underscore failed, then reported lt underscore reported, and for mapped it is lt underscore mapped, and this is done. Now the last statement is commit entities, and that's it. Everything is done now, and what it is saying, no error, tab is unknown. Okay, so we have res response and response. Now it is done. Now let's try to activate. It is activated. Let's see our table once, refresh it. So we have this record. So with the delete operation, this record will be gone. Then a new record will be created with the name code in means. Last name would be YouTube and course and everything. Now this new record will be created with status blank, but as soon as our update will trigger, it will update the status to X, and this will delete the record. So let's see, activate it and run. Press F9. Yeah, our code is got executed. We haven't written any message, but let's go and refresh. See, our that first record has been deleted, this new record has been created, and the status has been updated. So all of these three operations are done at once. Okay, so this is how we use this dynamic modify entity statement. There are some of the things which we need to keep in mind is always pass this entity name in capital letters, and you have this table a special type which you need to remember, ABP behavior changes table, and that's it. These are only the things which we need to keep in mind while using this dynamic modify entity statement in EML. So that's all for now in this video, and if you like the content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you.